Welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Here to talk all things hockey are your hosts, Brad Crisco, Ryan Hanna, and Evan Lobsinger.
We have two general advisories going on right now.
General advisories?
Yeah, like storm warning, high wind, flash freeze, that kind of thing.
We do?
Yeah. First one is triple check if the account is real before retweeting or responding. Quadruple check even. And remember, there are little symbols and emojis that are made to look like check marks.
Twitter's got to get rid of that, what looks like a 7-ball thing.
Yeah.
Got to get rid of that.
That one's rough. There's and you know what? I never learn. I never learn to not catch that. Because sometimes someone tweets something insane. I'm like, how? That's a verified person? Oh, no, never mind. Yeah, that's a little 7-ball or whatever it is. Some of you got by Veleno, a.k.a. Blast Drill on Twitter with the it's like a fake Bertuzzi Kaliev trade or something. Bertuzzi
Turcotte in a first, wasn't it?
Something like that.
When I first saw it, I was like, holy shit.
Once I saw Turcotte and Kaliev, I'm like, fake. Instantly fake.
Yep.
There's no way. And then they got promptly suspended. I was like, oh, woof. That was fast. Second advisory is, I think for us, we are now officially in get nervous about every phone alert because it's going to be Steve Yzerman making a trade at the world's most inopportune time. We're recording this at about 5:30 p.m. on Thursday evening, Thursday afternoon, whatever. And this information is due to be useless 10 minutes after posting.
You think I have notifications on my phone? I just rely on you to text me.
Don't I know it?
30 seconds after it happens, you text me. So why would I have anything else turned on?
Am I an enabler? Am I an enabler? Yeah, absolutely I am.
I can tell you when the trades are going to happen. Because I have 2 games this weekend, and those are the only moments where I will not be around my phone the entire weekend.
Okay, yeah, I actually know what time those games are, so thank you. I'll be extra.
That's when the trades are going down. Because I'm free all day Sunday and all day Monday, so nothing's going to happen then.
I've been at the barber's around trade deadline before, and he and I already know. I don't like being on my phone while my barber's cutting my hair. I don't know. It's just, if you do it.
Do you want hair in your phone?
Yeah. it just feels kind of rude. I don't know why. But around, when stuff is happening, he knows. He's like, dude, just do your thing. It's totally fine. So I'm in the chair like a tool tweeting.
Hollywood.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Doesn't know what it's like to be a social media influencer.
Look, if I can aspire to the levels of fame and glory that Tony has, half of that, I'll be an accomplished man. Welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast, this Red Wings trade deadline preview edition of the episode. Excited to be here and talk about these rumors that are useful for maybe 20 more minutes. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Hanna.
I'm Brad Crisco.
And I'm Evan.
On this episode of the Winged Wheel Podcast, we are going to be talking all things trade deadline, trades that have happened, rumors, Red Wings specific, our predictions, projections, predications. I don't know. I'm being stupid. And then we'll be talking, of course, about the world of the NHL and what's happened across the league. There will be some additional notes about the Red Wings game that has happened, especially the one against the Oilers, but not too much on that. There's more to come on future episodes regarding game review. And then we'll have an opportunity to check out some of your trade proposals. I put a call out for some of your best Red Wings trade proposals before we started recording. So we'll see if any of those are super compelling or interesting or just so crazy that they crazy enough that it just might work, however that goes.
Just so crazy they just might work.
Thank you. Yes. And then we will, of course, get into overtime. Before that...
Suddenly hat.
Yes. I had to, I paused because I realized a few minutes in I was melting because this is the warmest day we've had all year. And so I put on shorts and a hat to cover up my hair, which was inevitably going to look sweaty because I don't have an immaculate head of hair in which not one has ever fallen off like you two. I don't know what you did to get this, what genetic lottery you hit, but I'm not jealous at all.
Should I wear my hair like this?
Yeah, if you could.
Like this?
No, we already get
I could gel it straight down if you want.
Hold on, I gotta get you an MCR t-shirt first.
Yeah, I can do a good like Slavic look, guys. I think this is good.
I don't know if that's so much Adidas tracksuit as that is emo god.
Yeah, it looks a little bit more like what was that fest called? The music fest, Warped Tour.
Yeah. Warped Tour.
Yeah. We already get enough complaints about your appearance and demeanor on the episodes. I don't think we need to feed into that anymore.
No, if you look sad and depressed all the time, the emo look will actually fit.
Yeah, people say that tracks. Anyhow, other than this departure in the wardrobe change, before we get into the Winged Wheel podcast here, I do want to talk to everyone about Winged Wheel podcast night at the LCA. It's happening on Saturday, April 9th. What is it? We've partnered with the Detroit Red Wings again, so this is the second time we're running this event, to not only give you special Winged Wheel podcast discounted tickets to the April 9th game against the Columbus Blue Jackets, but also access to the Winged Wheel podcast night festivities at Little Caesars Arena. So in the beer garden, starting around 4:00, there's a meet and greet with the hosts, as well as a lot of special guests, including Prashant Iyer will be there. Ken Daniels and Mickey Redmond are going to be there, especially for the live recording of the Winged Wheel podcast right from the LCA. We're going to have merch, giveaways, knickknacks, prizes, tchotchkes, whatever you want to call them. And we're going to have some food out for you guys, and the bar will be open, so you'll have an opportunity to buy drinks. We'll watch the game all together in the Winged Wheel podcast sections. We filled the gondola. There's a ton of sections of the lower bowl that are filled in. We also have a lot of upper bowl seats that are filling up. And then the post-game after party is at Harry's Detroit Bar and Grill. More giveaways, more food, drinks, etc. And the party will go as long as we want it to. So get your tickets today. They've gone incredibly fast. Link is in the description of this episode, or check out wingedwheelpodcast.com/blog for more information. Did I get everything that time?
Yeah, I think so.
Wow.
You didn't say Max Bultman, though.
Well,
You said Prashant.
Max will be there working. Max is media. Prashant is
okay. You don't care.
Prashant is a bum like us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Said the word food a few too many times, and I was already hungry enough, you bastard.
Why don't you just stop at McDonald's on the way here?
Yeah,
Had I
God.
thought I'd have the time, I would have.
We're all just living in Evan's world. Okay. The Detroit Red Wings. Do we want to talk about the game, the Edmonton game, very quickly?
Have you seen a Red Wings game this year? It followed the script exactly. Started off really slowly, dug themselves a deep hole, defense collapsed.
Sorry, the Red Wings started off really slowly. Edmonton surely didn't.
Oh, yeah, sorry. The Red Wings came out flat, started slowly, got caved. Defense was a nightmare. The offense dragged them back into the game just to have the goaltending and the defense still blow it in the end.
Is Mark Stahl the greatest defenseman to ever play a game of hockey?
Yes, until Moritz Seider stepped onto the ice, but he's making a case to reclaim that title.
He sure is.
It's very like Rafa Nadal at age 35, 36 kind of thing.
Like
It
fine
depends.
wine.
Yeah.
It depends. Do you consider Dustin Byfuglien a forward or a defenseman?
Forward.
Then it's Mark Stahl. Definitely Mark Stahl.
A moving wall, more like. Yeah, Edmonton up 3-0, less than 5 minutes in. Grace got chased. And I actually said out loud, God have mercy on Alex Nedeljkovic, because
First, I thought I didn't tune in at the start of the game, and I thought at first when I looked at the scoreboard that they were showing like shots, maybe. But then I also saw the shots, and I was like, "It's 5 minutes, and what could this be?" I was like, "Goals?"
there's no way.
It didn't make any sense. Great start.
Yeah, I rushed home, and then I got home like just before the game started, but I needed a shower, and I'm like, I can bang out a quick one here. It'll be fine. And I came out and it was 3-0. And I was in there for like not even 4 minutes. It was shocking. Like I saw the notifications on my phone, and you know how the NHL app will send the notifications, but then sometimes if a goal is disallowed, it doesn't issue the correction.
Yeah.
I thought something like that might have happened. Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah, the Red Wings being down 3-0 that early, I think we all said out loud, well, this is a write-off. And the lineup that they put out, it was Giovanni Smith in the second line. And whenever you see something like that, like that's the hand that was forced. Like there's no one else. There's no Fabry. There's no Bertuzzi for that game in Canada. There was never going to be a Red Wings lineup that was going to come out and have a great chance against the Oilers, to put it lightly. So really, yeah, the Oilers won, but they ended up winning 7-5. The Red Wings tied it up 4-4 and then 5-5. I'm walking away as a Red Wings fan going, All right, cool. That's a net win for Detroit. I don't care. I expected them to lose that game. They sucked to start, but at least they showed something near the end. Like, it's always, first of all, Mark Stahl, his first career 2-goal game, deserves to be called out.
Only took him 1,001 games.
It's like, you know how the Gretzky's the fastest player to 1,000 points, and then he's also the second fastest player to score 1,000 points, but that was his next 1,000. I articulated that poorly. This is just like the second part of Mark Stahl's career, his second 1,000 games. So yeah, he's off to a blistering.
He's on pace for 2,000 goals in this stretch.
So Sam Gagner also, it's always Sam Gagner. Whenever the Red Wings are getting caved and they're like, you need anything, it's Sam Gagner scoring from like the stands. I don't know why. He did it in the Toronto game too. Zadina from Taro Hirose, who slotted into the lineup. It was
weird.
The Red Wings, who needed offense, played Witkowski over Hirose the first time. Witkowski got hurt, so Hirose slotted in this
I would
game.
argue the Red Wings don't need offense this year. They've actually been adequate there.
The Red Wings, who need even more offense because they have no defense.
There you go.
Hirose got 2 assists, and one was a perfect one-time rip from Zadina, and then Lucas Raymond got the goal off of Larkin's pickpocket behind the net on Koskinen. So it was interesting up until the end, and I think Edmonton scored again with 5 minutes left in the third, and they never let go of the lead. But all in all, terrible game. Lots to be concerned about, but it's not any different than what we've seen in past games, except the Red Wings actually fought back in this one. So
they've done that a bunch of times this year too, just to blow it. Minnesota, Toronto, like it's a theme. The team doesn't quit, which is a positive sign.
I'm mostly just impressed that they were able to do this much with the lineup they had. Like, if not for the first 5 minutes of the game, they might actually have beat the Oilers, which would have been so depressing for the Oilers if you're an Oilers fan.
I mean, are Oilers fans really capable of being any more depressed or surprised than they already usually are?
You want to say no, and yet. It's very like Cleveland Browns in the NFL kind of thing.
Obviously, because of my love for Connor McDavid, I follow more than a few Edmonton accounts on Twitter. There were a lot of reactions and emotions coming from Edmonton Twitter that night, none of which were surprise.
No.
Not one.
I saw the Ken Holland kind of half looking up from his desk, just looking so disheveled, like looking at us, looking like us trying to record a podcast at 8 a.m. kind of thing. I don't know why we do that to ourselves. Anyhow, the Red Wings West Coast road swing continues in Vancouver tonight, 10 p.m. at the time of recording this. So maybe by the time you're listening, you've already watched that game and something crazy has happened, and that's the price we pay. And then Saturday night, also at 10 p.m. Eastern in Seattle, and Bertuzzi will be back for that game. Bertuzzi and his partner Ashley had their first daughter last Friday, so congratulations to them. I know that. Yeah, that's been a long time coming. I know in terms of. We've been waiting for a little while. I think Bert has missed some practices and stuff. Anyhow, it'll be good to have him back in the lineup. Trade deadline. Speaking of Tyler Bertuzzi.
Aw, cute kid, get out.
Hey, it suits Steve Yzerman's way. Happy birthday. Pack your bags. You're being waived.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah. Hey, Bert, here's a gift from me and Mrs. Yzerman. Also, you got traded.
Oh, it's a baby Leaf jersey? I don't get it. Yeah. You're traded.
See you later, buddy. So we'll go through the Red Wings roster kind of player by player, mostly for those who are most likely to be dealt. And we'll talk a little bit about what we've been hearing about them to date, as well as what we might expect in potential returns. But when you talk about potential Red Wings trade pieces, there's no bigger name than Tyler Bertuzzi. And there's no more controversial name than Tyler Bertuzzi in terms of should the Red Wings even trade this guy?
And there's no player with more complications in a trade right now than Tyler Bertuzzi.
I will go so far as to say if either the federal mandates, the Canadian federal mandates surrounding vaccination didn't exist, or Tyler Bertuzzi was indeed vaccinated, it would be almost a guarantee that he'd be moved this deadline.
I wouldn't say guarantee, but I would say the likelihood would be high.
Yeah, I understand it's a little bit of a hot take because that implies that, oh, you need to trade Tyler Bertuzzi. Meanwhile, Tyler Bertuzzi makes your hockey team way better. Like, he's one of Detroit's best players this year, and he plays a style of hockey that a lot of teams need. Like, that kind of production combined with that kind of tenacity, like hard nose, like no quit, 110%. Guys in the room love him. Toronto would kill for 2 Tyler Bertuzzis. Toronto with 2 Tyler Bertuzzis wins a cup.
They need defense.
Tyler Bertuzzi can probably do it. I'm kidding.
Maybe.
But they also do need defense, yeah, and goaltending. It's a mess. But anyhow, aside from what you mentioned, and you would think that would disqualify the Tyler Bertuzzi conversation, what we've been hearing is that at least a few teams have been, asking about Tyler Bertuzzi. Those teams are the Islanders.
Wait, are they kicking tires?
Kicking tires.
I thought we banned that phrase from the podcast.
Yeah, it was in about April 2019 we did, yeah. The New York Islanders, the Pittsburgh Penguins are 2 of them. You want to know the third one that's been knocking around?
Toronto?
The Maple Leafs.
Shocker.
A little bit.
Not really.
He's exactly what they need, like you just said yourself.
You still have then that means they must have an inkling of something changing with the federal mandates at some point, right?
Well, if he's a resident of Canada, living in Canada, he can play the Canadian games.
But does that not complicate things? Not leaving, but then coming back?
It does. Don't get me wrong. I'm still confused. I'm less confused, but I'm still confused.
We don't have all the details. We're just putting it out there.
Yeah.
A noted improvement for this show. Tyler Bertuzzi, what does he mean, A, for the Red Wings, or I guess a better question for a team that's acquiring him, and what are you asking for?
You're asking a lot. If we go off what Ben Chiarot just went for, Tyler Bertuzzi is worth roughly 1 Sidney Crosby. But no, so you're looking, whenever you deal a star player who has at least a little bit of term, you always hear those, we're looking for 3 or 4 pieces. Now, Ben Chiarot, who is a pure rental, just went for 3 pieces, one of which was a premium piece. We've seen trades in the past where, something like this is probably 3 pieces with 2 of them being quote unquote premium pieces. I think that's fair for what Bertuzzi is as a player and the baggage, we'll call it, he comes with in terms of the complications of what he has. Because I think in this world, we can never say anything's a safe assumption. Right now, it's more likely than not that there won't be restrictions on him for next season.
Yeah, if I had to put money down, that's where I'd put it.
Yeah. Now, there's still a chance that there won't be restrictions on him for playoffs this year, which is what a lot of teams are going to be interested in. But either way, even if you're throwing this season out the window, you're still getting a full year of Tyler Bertuzzi at worst, which is very, very, very valuable to a contender. He's still near a point per game player. You look at what Ben Chiarot went for, the rumored price to be around Claude Giroux, these guys are like 3-4 month rentals, right? So, if you're going to, I'll use Toronto just because I know their system better than Pittsburgh or the Islanders. You're looking at a first round pick, Nick Robertson, and then either a mid-round pick or a half-ass prospect or a depth roster player.
Yeah, and this is coming from the Pagnotta. I think it mentioned that the price for Bertuzzi, it was quoted as similar to Mantha. And what they're looking for is a first, a good young player, and another piece, whether that be a prospect or what have you.
That absolutely tracks, yeah.
Yeah, and I think like that. I mean, hey, if you're taking that Chiarot deal as a benchmark, which no one will because that was an insane price to pay, but I think that's almost reasonable, right?
Even with Bertuzzi not being able to play Canadian teams for the rest of this year, it's still reasonable.
He's Tyler Bertuzzi for the remainder of his contract. He has the rest of this season, and I hate when he gets sorted out of cap friendly when he's not playing, the suspended without pay thing.
Oh, yeah.
So he has the rest of this season and next season at 4.75. That's a steal for teams.
And Detroit could retain.
And think of the price if they retain too. Like you think of like a Colorado or you think of a Pittsburgh and what they have and what they could offer and how tight they are on cap space. That is a massive ad for so little cap. oftentimes teams have to take a big lump on a player because they know it's like, yeah, dollar per point or dollar per output, you're not going to really maximize value here, but you just want any little thing to stack up and try to push your team over the edge. Tyler Bertuzzi gives you longevity. He gives you another season, an opportunity to negotiate with him, fit him into your team, extend him, or at the very least, you keep him and trade him or keep him for another cup run. Like that is, you don't find Tyler Bertuzzi's on the market this year, and Tyler Bertuzzi type players in this situation are hardly ever on the market. So I think it's a very reasonable price.
No, it is. But then with all the positives we just laid out, why would the Red Wings trade him?
That's the thing, right?
And I have reasons for it, but it's a very valid question.
Like, so here's my thought. And I land on closer to 50-50 than I may have in the past, but reasons to trade him. He's already 27. And that's still young. Like he'll be nearing or close to prime output. He's playing the best hockey of his life, and so his value will probably never be higher. Additionally, though, he's had major back surgery. And what have we seen over the past month other than the fact that the Red Wings are not close to being true competitors? They could do some things over this offseason and next to get into the playoff window, sure. But then are they really pushing for a cup? And it's not an easy question to answer, but what will bring you more value? Keeping Tyler Bertuzzi to try to make the most of those, maybe playoff runs, but by the time you're truly cup competitive, he'll be like, 32? Or you deal him out, you find a way to turn him into like Chiarot, Beauvillier, first round picks, whatever you want. It's a different story. Like,
let's say you think the Red Wings are true cup competitors in 6 years.
Then you
trade him now, the first round pick, let's say, or a piece you get who's like sub 23, the pick you get, you've got 5 years to get that person in the NHL and be a premium piece of your team. That's very excellent. And the premium AHL player who you think will be top 6'4", defenseman, whatever, they'll be 27 in their prime.
And like, you're likely to be able to get one or two of those guys on an ELC while you're competing for the cup, which is massive in terms of building a cup competitive team. Yeah, if we're talking 6 years before the Red Wings are really truly competing,
well, it won't be less
for a Stanley Cup, then it's an automatic in my mind. You have to try to trade him while you can. The votes against are he's obviously one of the most loved guys on this team. Like, especially in the dressing room, look how hyped he is for every time the Red Wings score a goal and look how much his teammates love him. He plays a kind of heart and soul game that is the glue for a team. He would run through a wall for his teammates, and we see him almost literally do it every game. And the guy produces. Maybe a little bit less lately. I think that Guelph line has really quieted down and his output has dropped because of it. But we've seen what he's been able to do, and those guys aren't easy to come by. And this is something that Max Bultman mentions quite a bit when we talk about this thing is you can't just get rid of every good player on your roster, right? You can't just get rid of every guy who can play. And the moment you have something special, you try to turn him into something else. Like there's a little bit of that Family Guy, like you take the boat or you take the mystery box to try to get a boat thing going on. And I fall more in line of in this specific case with Bertuzzi because of the age, etc. I prefer to deal. I prefer to make the trade to maximize the assets. But it's not cut and dry for those reasons that I stated in my mind.
And the one thing I never see anybody talk about because it's an unpleasant conversation, but it needs to be had, is Tyler Bertuzzi actually this good? This is the only season of his career at 27 years old where he's even flirted with a point per game. He did most of that this year at Dylan Larkin's hip, and then since he's been moved to the second line, they had a really hot streak, but have been fairly unimpressive for a longer period of time. So is Tyler Bertuzzi Mark Stone, where as he gets older, he just keeps getting better and better and better and better? Or is he just an abdicator and he was propped up a little bit and turns out he wasn't the player, but he thought he was?
I think the abdicator comparison, I understand.
I'm not saying he's that bad. I'm just saying it's the timing of everything, the riding the better players' coattails. Not saying like it's a 1-to-1, but like in terms of he's at his peak value now. You don't pay him out now?
I think his true talent is closer to right now, what he's doing right now, than maybe we'd give him credit for because of the timing. I think injuries.
Oh, I think we give him credit for. I'm saying the other side of the argument's not talked about all that often.
No, yeah. But I actually I don't think it matters because I think most people will agree this is like peak Tyler Bertuzzi, and that's not an insult. He's been unreal.
But I think that matters more than anything else, because even if you think the Red Wings can turn it around in 3 to 5 years, which is optimistic, but look at Chicago. They turned it around really quickly. It can be done. Mm-hmm. So if you think the Red Wings are competing for a cup in even 3 to 4 years, is 30-year-old Tyler Bertuzzi as good as 27-year-old Tyler Bertuzzi? That's a hell of a question to ask, because he could be exactly as good. He could be 75% as good. And as we've seen with other players in the aging curve, he could be 50% as good. And if you think that he is not going to be anywhere near what he is now, yeah, you max out now. You cash out while you're ahead.
He'll get a tribute video probably.
He absolutely would get a tribute video. You think he wouldn't?
What has he won?
A Calder Cup championship. And,
okay, I'll do that in Grand Rapids.
And a playoff MVP.
Hot dog night.
He's getting a tribute video, man. And you know what? We're going to go to that game, so you have to sit there and watch it.
No.
You know what? I don't think anyone gave a shit about tribute videos until Andrew Raycroft tweeted about it. I'm sorry.
You think I saw that?
Yeah, 100% you did.
No, I didn't.
Because you're a boomer. The only person you follow is Andrew Raycroft.
Former Leafs who are between the ages of 50 and 75.
Oh, man. Yeah, I see a fit, right? Like, I think when the Islanders came out, everyone was saying Barzal, and
who in the no?
But I think like that's that's like saying Larkin. Like when people say
if Barzal was on the table, you're throwing Bertuzzi plus yesterday.
And it's like the name that it's what teams do. You're a homer. You want the other team's best player. You don't want to give up much. Anyhow. Yeah. But really, you look at the Islanders' pieces, and they have guys like Beauvillier, and they have guys like Chiarot. Although,
what hand is Noah Dobson?
Right.
Damn it.
No, we talked about this last time, though. Is the Red Wings right D as strong as we think? And the answer is probably no. So here's for what it's worth, because we live in a Red Wings bubble, and because of it, our opinions are always generally shitty about other teams because we don't follow them closely. Nor should we, nor that should any fan have any detailed knowledge about the New York Islanders farm system. So when I saw this rumor came out, I went to Islanders writers, Islanders Twitter. I wanted to see what the Islanders take was. And I did see Dobson's name brought up more than a few times by Islanders fans in this trade.
Yeah.
Didn't see Barzal. Weird how that works out. But I saw Wahlstrom. I saw Dobson. I saw Picks, obviously. Didn't see Ratu. Didn't see Barzal.
You think about Matt Barzal the same way you think about Dylan Larkin. Like, it does not matter. Like, at some point, the logical arguments go out the window when you're talking about the figurehead, like the leader of your team. That's a team that just lost Tavares. Within recent memory, they're not going to then ship out Barzal.
Also, Barzal is infinitely better than Tyler Bertuzzi. That's not a trade that's going to happen.
He's a very good player. I think he's had a couple down years now.
Yeah, because he plays on the Islanders.
Yeah. Anyway.
The offensive juggernaut that is the New York Islanders.
Still, like there's opportunity here where something like the Islanders makes sense. Or again, hey, Pittsburgh, like that makes sense. And especially with Detroit's capacity to retain salary, like
Colorado's probably in on it. They're in on everybody.
Yeah. If they're in on Giroux and they're not asking about Patrick Kane, then yeah, they're also asking about Tyler Bertuzzi for sure.
Pittsburgh's the one that concerns me because I don't love anything of what they would have to offer. They've got a very weak farm system. They don't have any particularly good young players on the roster that they could part with.
Can't have many picks left.
Yeah. Even if you're...
They have the next 3 first-round picks and the next 3 seconds.
And you probably need 2 of those to get Bertuzzi out of Pittsburgh because they don't have the prospects or the young players worthwhile.
I think the Islanders are pretty interesting. Like those picks would be really interesting because it depends on... Islanders will be betting on themselves if they're trading for Tyler Bertuzzi.
God, I would almost take the Islanders 2023 first-round pick straight up.
Right?
As long as it's not lottery protected.
Lottery protection is becoming a little bit more common. And for those who don't know, lottery protection is you say, I'll trade you like the 2023 first round pick.
This year's if it's protected, and then you get next year's first.
Yeah, but by protection is they'll designate an X number of picks. Often it's like 3 or 5. And if that pick is in the top X amount of picks, then you flip to the option, which is the next year's first round pick or whatever they decided the condition. Yeah. So
whatever we have to do to get as many unprotected 2023 first round picks as possible.
Again, yeah, like that's not a bad plan at all.
Especially since the Islanders probably want to get better. Because you look at the Islanders contract situation, they are not in a position to rebuild, and they are having a disastrous year. They are probably more likely to push their chips in than to start selling the farm. So it makes sense that they would be interested in Bertuzzi because he helps them next year crawl out of the hole that they're in. But the Islanders are a prime candidate to not get better. So if you can get their first round pick, that could be a really good pick.
They're not close to the playoffs right now.
No, they're not.
They're 2 points ahead of the Red Wings. They have 3 games in hand, but they would have to pass Columbus and one of Washington or Boston to get into a wild card spot. So like you said, the next year part of it is what's attractive. And hey, that's what makes Bertuzzi a good fit.
So also, it's worth noting though, because, rumors are fun, but Lou Lamoriello leaks nothing. The Islanders were one of the teams that came out and said they have a full vax policy, which is why Bodie Wild got banished to Scandinavia. Gotta be skeptical of
that's fair.
Of their interest.
His hair's too long.
Okay, unironically, maybe yes.
I wasn't joking.
No, he actually would have to cut it.
It drives me nuts, man.
I know, it's so archaic and stupid. But
Yankees bullshit. I can't stand that.
It's so funny because everything you hear about Lou Lamoriello is like he's the nicest guy. When you meet him, like he just wants to talk about you, your family, get to know you.
It's just old school.
And then as soon as it's like when it's like business, it's like old school IBM early years, like suit and tie, clean shaven, everything.
Man, I look like an idiot with a clean shaven face. Like I couldn't do it.
Me too. It's horrible.
I look like such a dummy.
Yeah.
Like Brad, your beard has grown out, but I remember still like early when we started the podcast, your face was like, you kept it pretty clean shaven and it suited you. It suited you. For me, it's like,
I don't have the time to shave every morning anymore.
I can't. I look like a big dumb baby. So I'm sorry, Lou. I can't play.
Imagine if the Islanders players took that accumulated time having to shave and keep their hair trim and proper to practicing and being good.
Hey man, they were overproducing as of last season.
Have you seen Kyle Palmieri in the Islanders on the ice in a jersey? It's unnerving.
Yeah, it is a little odd.
It's horrible. How did Nick Leddy play for that team?
I don't know. I don't know, man.
Light cannot escape his beard.
No, it's like that thing is dense.
Yeah.
You could not get a comb through it. Anyhow, we've done enough speculating. And like you said, Brad, the trade rumors are fun, which is why it's easy to get out of hand. But let's also give credence to the other side of this. It's going to be hard to trade Bertuzzi for the obvious reasons. And do the Red Wings even want to? Because if they don't get the right price, they're not going to force the issue. What I want is your prediction. Does Tyler Bertuzzi get moved? Yes or no? This trade deadline.
If it weren't Steve Yzerman, I would say this is an easy no. But it is Steve Yzerman, so I'll say probably not.
I wouldn't bet on it.
No. Okay.
There's too many complications between his back, the vaccination status, the fact that Yzerman's not going to lower his asking price because of those things. If Yzerman gets a really good return for Bertuzzi in the next few days, that would be his finest work.
I'm going to say no for the same reason. Yzerman is going to hold out. I would imagine Yzerman wants max value. You don't really shave value significantly off the top of a player like Tyler Bertuzzi because of how good he is. And he's one of those guys where you can look what he got from Mantha, right? I know the contract situation was a little different, so I don't see a team ponying that up as of right now. And I would think that Yzerman would then hold, see what changes either on Bertuzzi's end or the mandate end, and try again next year. That said, now that all three of us said no, it is absolutely going to happen. So stay glued to Twitter.
So the one argument I have kind of against myself here on this one is, even if the vaccine mandates don't lift, you still get, let's just say, half of the games of Tyler Bertuzzi plus next season. Whereas if you trade him in the summer, you only get next season. So his value's still higher now than it would be in the summer because, you know, even if he can only play the home games for Pittsburgh or whoever, it could still happen. Also, it's probably worth noting this never happens because the NHL is fun and boring. You could trade Bertuzzi to the Islanders after the deadline.
But then he couldn't play in the playoffs.
Exactly. You can trade after the deadline. They are just not eligible for the playoffs. So if it is a team that does not care about the playoffs, like the Red Wings and the Islanders, it could still happen. It's never happened, and I don't think it ever will happen because the NHL's no fun.
Sorry, it hasn't happened at a significant scale like this.
Yeah,
they've made very minor deals in the past.
Oh yeah, this college pending UFA, we're going to trade his rights to whoever because, yeah, like that kind of stuff's happened. But yeah.
Yeah, man, I don't know. I think it's, I was a little surprised to see that so many teams were asking now. Part of me thinks it's hey, it's trade deadline. We need whatever news we can. And part of me is like, hey, it's trade deadline. If you're a team, you're considering more options than what you thought coming in because as players come off the board, you start to panic a little bit. So, let's see what happens on that front. And, let's talk about some other big names. There was a rumor coming out of Vancouver, actually, basically some people who are close to the Vancouver organization, as well as Troy Stecher, got word that, and this is all, you know, supposedly that Troy Stecher is expecting to be moved before Monday's deadline, or at least by Monday's deadline.
I thought you said we were getting other big names.
Names from the Red Wings who are more likely to be moved than not.
Yeah, I mean, Stetcher's a better player than I think he's gotten credit for in Detroit, especially from the coaching staff, but he's been a healthy scratch. He's had injury troubles. He hasn't showed particularly well this year since he's come back from injury. It makes sense to trade him. He doesn't seem to have a future with the team. I don't think that trade return will be anything significant at all, which, spoiler, is going to be a theme going forward here.
If that's a fourth, I'll be kind of surprised.
If it's a fourth, I'm thrilled.
Yeah, he's expiring an expiring contract. He's making 1.7. Detroit wouldn't even have to retain on that.
The two things that Stecher has going for him are, one of the things you just said, he's only cost 1.7, which the cash strapped teams will appreciate, and he shoots right.
Yeah. Yep. And hey, if he can do what he did for Detroit at the beginning of last season on another team, especially on a cup run, why not? So, and that was the Vancouver play-by-play guy who apparently, that's where the news is coming from. Let's start with Nick Leddy to stay on defense. Nick Leddy, who sensed that the trade deadline was coming and has been playing his best hockey pretty much all season over the past few games. I think as guys like, you know, Chiarot's off the board, got a big price. We don't really know what's happening with Chicker, and I don't think the injury is going to complicate the trade as much as people feared, but he's still kind of a logjam. But what's going to happen with Nick Leddy, and do you see him being moved, and for what price?
Yes, and a slightly better mid-round pick. A third or a fourth is my prediction for Leddy.
I think if the offer is a third or a fourth, I don't think the Red Wings move him. From what I've heard, the Red Wings aren't interested in moving him at a low price like that, and that they would rather keep him for the value of having somebody halfway competent on the left side.
How dare you besmirch the good name of Mark Stahl?
Hey, I'm just saying, Stahl, Edvinsson, Leddy, left side, that's cup caliber right there. But no, in all seriousness, the Red Wings gave up a second for Nick Leddy. Like, that was not an insignificant asset given up. I don't really think that trade has aged well. That's an obvious statement.
I mean, he's the clubhouse leader at the Masters right now, so yeah, obviously it hasn't aged well.
Is that what's...
I don't get it.
He's dash 33 on the season. Leads the
my God.
Leads the NHL.
This guy's quick with it. You and I we're not fast enough to keep up with that. But seriously though, like, the Red Wings gave up a second, and I'm sure that's probably on their mind. Like, we don't need to get rid of this guy. If he has interest in coming back, which it sounds like he does at the right price, he's probably not looking to make a ton. I think it's more likely that a team is offering at best a fourth for Nick Leddy. Yzerman says no, brings him back for not as much as he's making right now. And he provides veteran depth on the left side that hopefully looks better than what they've had this year.
Yeah, my counterpoint to all that, which is all sound, logical advice and thoughts, is he's been terrible. He's not an asset to the Red Wings right now.
Okay, but what do people what did GMs at the trade deadline think?
Oh, no, I'm obviously I'm hoping, hey, we just saw Ben Chiarot get a first round pick off reputation alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do not understand why people are so gung-ho for Ben Chiarot.
No, I don't think a
so much
third round pick for Nick Leddy right now is crazy at all, which, given the season he's had, I would otherwise say would be crazy. But reputation matters, and Nick Leddy's got a hell of a good one around the league. So I do think he gets traded. I do think it will be for a third round pick. And if that is all that is offered, I take it in a heartbeat.
I wouldn't hate Nick Leddy for a third. I almost agree. I almost agree though with that concept of if it's a fourth or, not worth it, then you may as well bring him back. I've not been thrilled with Nick Leddy's play this year, but let's be real. Nick Leddy's play got masked for a long time because Detroit had Danny DeKeyser on the left side with Moritz Seider. And has Leddy been substantially better? No, but it's been less bad. And I think that's still what the Red Wings have to focus on with their decor for the next little while. So I'm kind of ambivalent. If they end up dealing him for a third, it's yeah, okay, you get a third out of it. You're going to have to find someone to step in on the left side next offseason. You're going to have to find more than a warm body.
So they have, let's just assume Edvinsson and Osterley next year, because Osterley's under contract and Edvinsson, all signs point to him being ready. Obviously that could change, but they're probably going to want to go out and get someone half decent, a la an Ian Cole, as a guy I've had my eyes on as a potential legitimately good left defenseman UFA.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that leaves room for one more left defenseman. So if you had the choice right now and they were both willing to sign 1 year pretty cheap deals, who do you bring back, Mark Stahl or Nick Leddy?
Mark Stahl.
Mark Stahl would come cheaper. Nick Leddy does a better job of doing things like moving the puck up the ice, and I don't know.
Yeah, but it's clap bombs.
That's true.
That's true. It's an awful stat, but Mark Stahl's plus minus is 40 points better.
You're going to get ratioed for that one. People hate when you do that.
No, I know. It's a terrible, terrible stat, but it's by such a wide margin that it's at least noteworthy. But for the point you made, which is probably the most important one, Mark Stahl comes cheaper. So Leddy then is the odd man out.
If Mark Stahl we're talking about is a significant amount cheaper, then yeah, because I almost don't care, especially if an Ian Cole comes in.
Yeah.
That fills the same function to me.
Yeah. Then that fourth guy is just a warm body. And I think at this stage in his career, Mark Stahl is comfortable and good being just a guy. I don't think Leddy's there yet, but based on performance this year, I don't think there's an appreciable difference between them.
The good thing is there's lots of guys who are, not that great anymore in the NHL. We can get for cheap.
Yeah, that's the thing. Nick Leddy is 5 years younger.
Yeah, if neither of them come back, I'm fine with it. But I don't think age matters in this hypothetical because neither's getting a long-term contract.
You're just saying that because you're 34.
Shut up. But no, I would not give either of them more than a 1 year contract, so it's irrelevant to me.
Part of me is wondering how much I'm thinking of sunk cost fallacy here, because the Red Wings did give up a good amount to get Leddy. That was it was just a second round pick straight up. Was that what it was?
Yep.
And that wasn't cheap. And again, it hasn't turned out to be great. But if the Red Wings get a second round pick back from him in the future,
it's great. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, I'd be surprised.
So if you downgrade a round or two for half a season of Nick Leddy, that's not terrible. So yeah, we got him. We picked his brain. He helped Moritz Seider. He helped Filip Hronek by whatever he knows about the NHL and the game of defense. But yeah, so we downgraded a couple rounds to get that. Okay, fine.
Yeah, and you know what? Now that I think about it more, I still do think, based on my understanding of the temperature around Nick Leddy and the team, that they would prefer to bring him back if the price isn't right to trade him. I don't have any idea what that right price is. Who knows what's going on in Yzerman's mind? If it's a third, and that's the right price, I'm pretty okay with that.
Yeah, same.
It's not moving the needle a lot in any direction, but it's still something. And you paid around again to get Nick Leddy for the year. Okay. But I'm just saying, don't be surprised if he does not get moved and returns for next season.
I think we could say that just about everybody we're going to talk about.
All right, let's get into Vlad Namestnikov.
Who's the guy who's most likely to be traded because he's the guy I've seen the least amount of rumors on.
Yeah. He's going to be, we didn't get our first or second picks, and we want to make sure we get someone who actually matters and has a name that people know before the deadline.
If I'm a coach of a playoff team, he's the guy I would want, because when something's not going right, he can play almost in any spot up and down the lineup. Like
any position too.
If I'm a coach and we're not going to go big game hunting, that's the first guy I'm looking at.
Yeah. Yeah. He's been on the first line for the Red Wings, and some of it has been, I think, showcasing, and some of it, I think you guys are right, has just been because there's no one else there and he can at least be there and not be a complete anchor. But yeah, he's an energy guy. He goes out and can play center. He can play the wing. He can put pucks in when maybe no one else on your team can that game. He can kind of break through the ice that way. He's well liked. It's hard because he loves Detroit so much, and Red Wings fans love him. And
is he UFA at the end of the year?
Yeah.
Well, then come back.
Come on. I know it's easier said than done. It doesn't happen as often as we talk about, but
why? You just get an Airbnb for 2 months.
That's expensive. Airbnbs in Detroit have gotten very expensive.
I meant like wherever he's going.
I know. I'm being an asshole. You think Colorado's any cheaper?
No.
Yeah, definitely not. No, he can be a bread and butter guy. Like, he can be make a difference on your third and fourth line on a cup run. He scores a couple key goals, goes out there and grinds it out, and your team will appreciate him for it. And he's not going to cost you a lot. What's the return on Namestnikov going to be? A third? Fourth?
The theme holds.
It's not a lot.
No, it's a mid-round pick.
Sorry, that's expected. It's Steve Yzerman we're talking about, so we're definitely liable to get something above that. But then that's a big win.
Straight up. Anyways, the one thing that I've noticed with Namestnikov, and again, we live in the Red Wings world, as does everybody listening, and we're all guilty of it. Be careful of hot streaks, because we at the end of last season very much thought Adam Ernie was something he very obviously is not, because of a hot streak. Namestnikov has been ice cold for a while now.
Say that after the deadline, man. What's wrong?
I know. Nobody's listening to this of any significance.
Evan listens on
buy
this.
Buy high, sell low.
Yeah.
But
Nick Leddy, baby.
Yeah. Namestnikov had that run earlier in the year. It was a little longer than a streak, to give him credit, but it wasn't much longer than a streak. So if your thought process right now is, oh, no, Namestnikov's way too valuable to this team, we can't trade him.
Oh, no.
I'm sorry, everybody's thinking that. You're wrong. Is he a fan favorite? Absolutely. Should he be a fan favorite? Absolutely. Do we love the way he embraces Detroit? Absolutely. Are those all good reasons to have him as a Red Wing next year? Absolutely. You still trade him if you get a third or a fourth round pick and you don't think twice about it.
That's the unfortunate truth of situations like this. And like Evan said, like, not even in jest, if that's such a big difference where he matters to this team, there's no rules against saying to him, like, who could ever prove this? More heavy tampering happens all the time. Hey, Vlad, we're sorry, but you're going to have a chance to go play on a potentially cup winning team for a couple months here. Go out there, do your best. We'll talk to you July 1. Here's the money we'll give you. We'll tack on an extra $100,000 because, you're a good sport about this, and come back to Detroit. And if he does,
we'll cover your living expenses in the new city by adding it to the next contract. Yeah.
And if he comes back, great. And if not, like, okay, then that's actually how it works almost all the time.
Yeah. My whole pitch, if I was Yzerman, is, hey, Vlad, we're going to send you away for a bit. Come back in July and show us your new ring.
Yeah. Like, honestly, like, tell us a little bit what you know about what a cup winning team today is.
I mean, if he does end up coming back, like, that's a valuable experience, right? Like, even if whatever team he goes to doesn't win the cup, like, he just got a window into what a potential winning organization and what the smell of that organization is.
We're talking about him like he hasn't already played for Tampa Bay and Colorado.
I was going to say, like,
where are the rings? Where are the rings?
But yeah, you can't draw the line at Vlad Namestnikov. If we just kind of talked, at 100 feet of depth about all the different ways you could trade Tyler Bertuzzi, you can't wax poetic about Vlad Namestnikov and keep him on just for the feels. You want to, but you can't.
Yeah, like the definite theme of this entire conversation once we get past Tyler Bertuzzi is, hey, everyone, all these guys that we're going to hyper obsess over the next 4 days about aren't actually all that good in the grand scheme of the NHL. So temper expectations into trade returns and don't get too attached to them, because if they're not that valuable to other teams, it means they're not that valuable to the Red Wings. I'm sorry, it sucks and it's harsh because I like Nick Leddy. I like Vlad Namestnikov. I like Troy Stecher. But this is the sad reality of being a bad team.
Fans have a completely different perspective than
GMs
or anyone in the
1,000%.
Because fans
should, at least.
Fans definitely come at it mostly with their heart and being passionate, whereas obviously the people in the head of the organization are passionate about the team and winning, but they definitely are more objective in their talent evaluation than most fans. Fans, I would say.
Look at Steve Yzerman. Why did you buy out Justin Abdelkader? I thought we can get someone to come in and do better for cheaper. He said that almost word for word.
Yeah.
It's very cold.
Yeah.
It is. You can love a player and still love a trade. You know who one of my favorite Red Wings of the last 10 years is? Anthony Mantha. Would I make that trade again? In a heartbeat.
Who was one of your other favorite players? Andreas Athanasiou. Who was one of your other favorite players? Gustav Nyquist.
Tomas Tatar. The only one of those trades that I would say didn't work out all that well was probably Nyquist. You redo the other three, no questions asked.
Oh, God, yeah. Okay, we're going to take a quick break here because I need to take a second to tell you that this episode of the Winged Wheel podcast is proudly brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook, a sponsor that gives hockey fans what we really need, even more excitement in the game. There are so many reasons why FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. They're simple to use with great odds on different betting markets, and they're a ton of fun with unique bet types like same game parlay and exclusive promos on biggest events. And when you win, you get your winnings back safely in as little as 24 hours. Now listen to this. FanDuel is letting you place your first bet risk-free up to $1,000. Just place a bet on any game, and FanDuel will refund you up to $1,000 back in site credit if you don't win your first bet. If you win, you keep the cash. If you lose, you get that grand back in site credit. Now, what we want you to do is download the FanDuel Sportsbook app to get started with that risk-free bet, and be sure to sign up with promo code WWP so they know the Winged Wheel podcast sent you. That's promo code WWP on FanDuel Sportsbook. You must be 21 and older and present in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Illinois, West Virginia, Indiana, Colorado, Iowa, Tennessee, Virginia, or Michigan. First online real money wager only. Site credit is non-withdrawable and expires in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See sportsbook.fanduel.com for details. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700 in Colorado, 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa, 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana, 1-800-GAMBLER in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Illinois, or Virginia, Tennessee Redline 1-800-889-9789, 1-800-GAMBLER.net in West Virginia, or call 1-800-270-7117 in Michigan. Okay, so we've talked about Vlad Namestnikov. Just to kind of finalize, the expectation is that he's moved?
Less certain about him.
Oh,
just because he is such a fan favorite and versatile. I could see the logic to not trading him and extending him. I would not personally take that approach. I love the idea of at least trading him and trying to bring him back in the offseason. That is the right answer there, but like we've said, way easier said than done.
Yeah, I don't know on him because you've literally heard no noise, which isn't always an indication that there's nothing in the works. But
with Stevie, it's an indication of the opposite.
Yeah. So I don't know if I'm just putting my GM cap on. I think there has to be a team out there for him, unless I'm just completely way out on left field by myself here. I would say he gets moved. What the return is, mid-round pick.
Yeah, I agree. I think he gets moved. And I think half the reason we don't hear much is because it's Steve Yzerman and he's an Iron Vault. Fun fact, they actually, there's no guards left at Fort Knox. It's just Steve Yzerman guarding it. But B, I think you're not hearing a lot of noise on Namestnikov for what I mentioned earlier. He's not choice 1 or often even choice 2 for the teams who are going to be making moves for that kind of player, but he's still on the list, right? He's who you look at Sunday afternoon, Monday morning to say, okay, we didn't get Giroux, we didn't get Bertuzzi, call it, we didn't get Ricard Raquel, whoever you want to think of. We now have to look at a guy who can still make a difference for this team because we cannot come into the playoffs when, X, Y, and Z conference rivals have improved this much. So I still think he gets moved. And one other point before we move on here is when we talk about returns and we say mid-round pick, like high pick, low pick, whatever, it's just the easiest way to equate it because there are infinite amount of configurations. You work in like contract dumps. You can work in whatever random AHL player to offset value. You look at salary retention. You get too in the weeds and too specific. There's no real point in doing all that. So when we say like third round pick, think third round pick or equivalent value. That's essentially what we're saying. It's also worth noting, I mentioned earlier about Leddy in that trade. It wasn't Leddy for that second straight up. It was Leddy for Edmonton second and Richard Panik half salary retained.
Right.
I forgot about the salary retained part. Okay. So those in my mind are the Red Wings that are most likely to be traded, but by no means is that the full extent of the list. I mean, we make our jokes about Mark Stahl and, he's a rock star and he's actually, in all seriousness, been a pleasant surprise for the Red Wings, both in terms of like fandom and performance, but his performance isn't going to go unnoticed. And teams care about veteran depth and teams care about guys who look like
his last name is Stahl.
Oh God, it's worth a round in and of itself. Man.
Played 1,000 games in the NHL. That's ridiculous.
If I'm a team who needs defense and has nobody on my team who's ever been there and done that, Mark Stahl is a guy I'm asking about.
The only thing is I think the teams that are true contenders have better defensemen already than Mark Stahl.
Toronto? I think
maybe.
I think they do, but that doesn't matter, right? Like they're not asking to go out there and play first round minutes. They're asking him to make a difference in the room and to work in the margins. And that matters to teams, whether you think it should or not. That matters to GMs and it matters to coaches and it matters to players. Look at the Red Wings social media team, like the extra video content that they put out, which is all excellent, by the way. Look at like there's a one where they come and walk off the ice and they like talk about players or they say like which player is most likely to do this or describe like
those
X player with 2 words.
Yeah, it's like the Bristol board.
Yeah, it's like a prompt.
Yeah.
Look at how they talk about Mark Stahl. They love that guy in the room. That makes a difference. And
GMs, old school GMs love that.
Oh, dude. New school GMs would love that. You think Kyle Dubas wouldn't absolutely love to have Mark Stahl on his team for cheap right now? Just for the vibes. I'm almost not even kidding when I say that.
What is the draft equivalent value of good vibes? I'm saying it's at least a 5th.
Right? It's not lower than that.
The vibes are worth a 5th. And then whatever on-ice production bumps it up from there.
Mark Stahl's an expiring contract. He's got a no-move clause, so that would have to be waived. But there's this, I can see a situation here where a team doesn't want to spend a world of assets, and they come knocking on Detroit's door and say, hey, Mark Stahl is probably worth this round pick, let's say 5th. I'll give you a 4th, or I'll give you this prospect. You retain a little bit of that salary for us to help ease it. I could honestly see that happening. Mark Stahl can nix it, but I can see that
what does
happening.
he make right now?
$2 million.
Oh, okay.
It's so workable.
I was running through a lot of the playoff teams in my head, and I was not coming up with many good answers as to teams that I think would be a good fit for Mark Stahl or who would be interested or even make any sense. And then I stumbled on one that actually does. The Rangers.
That would be funny.
That would be great.
Because he would waive to go back there.
Oh, 1,000%. And they have a need at defense.
Yeah, he's another one where I don't think he should be discounted. The reality is, and this news comes out every year, it's been indicated to the league from Yzerman, the Red Wings are open for business. The Untouchables are essentially Raymond and Seider. You can add Larkin in there because it would take a king's ransom plus another king's ransom to pry away the captain. And it's hard to get centermen, so it's probably not going to happen. So you have to consider guys like Mark Stahl in there. I haven't heard anything on him, but he's cropping up on lists, and much like Nick Leddy, I think even to a bigger degree, his play of late has been amplifying that. And that, again, that recency bias, it's not just for us normies. That matters for pro scouts and GMs too. They get fooled / they care about, what have they done recently just as much as the rest of the
I'd rather take a player who's on a hot streak now than one who was on one of 15 games into the season.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly. On that note, I think we've run through the likely or at least discussed Red Wings candidates to be moved. Let's talk about the rest of the team. Are there, who am I kidding? Thomas Greiss. Because he's actively being shopped.
Mid-round pick.
I don't care if it's a late round pick for Thomas Greiss.
No, yeah, please, God, Calvin Pickard's probably an upgrade at this point.
You move him for anything. No one on the Red Wings has been doing enough in terms of goaltending where you're going to miss him. You keep Ned because he's young. He has another year, and you've seen him play at a high level. But for Greiss, he's 36. He's expiring. He makes 3.6. You can retain money if you want. Teams are going through either goalie trouble or goalie injury. So you think of Edmonton and Toronto. You think of Dallas, whoever it might be. Whether you need a backup or, God help you, a starter. Trade Greiss for whatever.
The only thing that's saving Thomas Greiss's trade value right now is when you look around the league outside of Marc-Andre Fleury, the goalies that are available are by and large also terrible.
And is Marc-Andre Fleury going to waive?
Yeah. Korpisalo, been terrible. Martin Jones, terrible.
If I'm a team looking for a goalie, I'm going for Georgiev right now.
He's been bad this year.
Yeah, but you've seen him be good, and he's 26 years old, right?
Yeah, who else do you see be good? Greiss. And age doesn't matter right now. I would say the younger he is, the bigger disadvantage you're at right now if you're looking for a rental.
Goalies are fake anyways.
Yeah.
It
doesn't matter.
Bullshit magic.
Yep. Toronto's current starting goalie I'd never heard of before 2 weeks ago.
Man, they're getting firmly just the butt end of the Peter Mrazek experience, eh?
Yeah, welcome.
Well, I mean, we used to get the other side of it. What happened?
Their current goaltending strategy is maybe Binnington. It's a Binnington type run?
Oh, God.
Maybe, please. This ECHL guy might not be terrible.
You have to sorry, you don't have to feel bad.
I don't feel bad for Leafs fans. They think Michael Bunting is the Calder winner outright. Leaf fans can suck it.
Isn't he older than Thomas Greiss?
Yes.
He's older than his line mate who's been in the NHL for 6 years. Anyways.
And that one isn't even a joke.
No, that's literal. He's older than Austin Matthews.
Yeah, Thomas Greiss is also one. The only thing weirder than goalies and their playoff runs is, trying to predict goalies at trade deadline. The market for them is bizarre. Do the best ones always get traded? No. Do the ones you expect to get traded always get traded? No. Do the automatic ones where you're like, yeah, this guy requested a trade, the team says we're trading him at any given cost, do they even always get moved? No. I could see it happening, and if it doesn't, you can't be surprised. It's a toss-up. Trading for goalies, teams are hesitant to do it, and I don't necessarily blame them. It's hard to do. Okay, so that is the Red Wings where we've heard something or we think there's some likelihood of them being moved. Let's talk about the rest of the team. Yeah, you have the untouchables, Raymond and Seider. What if someone comes knocking for Zadina? What if someone comes knocking for Pius Suter? We haven't talked about it in a while because the guy's been a blast, but Jacob Vrana, one of the first things I thought when they brought him in is, hey, Jacob Vrana's, he's 26 years old right now.
He's well rested.
He's well rested, and he's on a pretty friendly deal at 5.25 for the next 2 seasons, considering his output. I don't think this is as much of a question right now because of his massive shoulder surgery, which he's barely back from. But you can't discount the idea that Vrana moves sometime within the next 18 months, right?
18 months, if we're putting it that big a window, yeah. I don't think it's happening this year.
I think it's a possibility. I just don't think it's a big one for this deadline.
No. The shoulder surgery alone is going to scare off most teams. And he's riding between the end of last season and since he's come back, the heater to end all heaters. Teams are aware that his value is going to be insanely high for a pretty big question mark and a pretty small sample size.
You mean he's not going to score a goal per game for the Red Wings?
Only when it matters.
I think the only way you really move Vrana is if you get a Mantha-type return, which is ironic because he was part of the Mantha return. And I don't know that a team is going to do that right now based on what you just said, Brad, unless they're willing to bet that this is the real Vrana and they think that this is a steal on his value. But I would imagine you keep Vrana longer and then you make the decision. Does he factor into your rebuilding your turnaround, or do you want to deal him down the line when he has a little bit more under him and behind him in terms of productive games?
Usually don't just turn around a guy you just traded for. Unless the deal's too good to pass up.
And there is still some logic too. You got to keep some good players. I think there's room to trade one of Vrana and or Bertuzzi, but not both.
Both means you are
starting the rebuild over.
Not starting over, but you are adding back on the years that Raymond and Seider shaved off, to put it roughly.
Minimum.
It depends on the return, but yeah, it's also like this is a trade deadline preview podcast. Like this episode is all about trades. We're going to talk about trading all these guys. Not all of them are going to happen. And yeah, you can't just trade all your good players. Think of the difference between Dylan Larkin last year and Dylan Larkin now. Last year's Dylan Larkin was depressed, man. It was to the point where he was like, I don't even want to go to the All-Star game. Like, I'm too tired and beat up and sad.
Nobody does, but.
And then this year, he's like pumped to go. He's wearing the shades.
Where was it last year? Where was it this year?
In Vegas.
Yeah, it doesn't matter where it was last year.
Evan is just getting down to the brass tacks here. He's like, we all know why.
Everyone else is in Cabo or somewhere sweet, and then you got to go to Columbus.
If we are
work.
If we recorded this podcast in Vegas, Evan would never once ever be anything other than 5 minutes early every episode.
You would never see me.
What do you mean we'd never?
You'd see me walk out of my hotel room, and that was the last time you'd ever see me.
It's like The Hangover, but without a resolution.
Yes.
We'll find you.
And no clues.
No clues. We'll find you no clothes.
There'd be no clues of my disappearance, just the way I'd want it.
But you know what?
He'd have the craziest bender of his life and end up as one of the mole people who lives in the tunnel under Vegas.
I mean, the crab people.
Who else comes to mind for you when you think of guys who other teams might potentially be interested in? Who?
Suter.
Yeah. It's a hard sell, though, right? The Red Wings only have so many guys who can play center. Fabry's
so do other teams.
Shut up with your logic, Evan. You make a good point.
I don't think the gap between Suter and Namestnikov is big enough for the Red Wings to really consider that.
In terms of return?
In terms of return, and, Suter's younger and cost controlled. So if a team comes calling looking for a middle six center,
we'll take Sam Girard.
Yeah, sell Namestnikov before you sell Suter.
I'm not really, no one else strikes me. I don't think people are going to be trading for Giovanni Smith. I don't think people are going to be trading for Sam Gagner.
There's nothing else, man. It's bleak. I know you're looking, saying, yeah, maybe, and it's bad, man.
Well, see, now that you said that, a depth player is going to get traded.
Oh, probably. And
did we talk about Hronek?
And it's going to be for a seventh. It's going to be for a 7th round pick, and nobody's going to care or remember in a month.
Okay, so my last point here about the Red Wings specifically. We'll talk a little bit about the rest of the league. Ben Chiarot got this return.
Is Ben Chiarot good?
No.
Okay. Because I do not understand why everyone has been talking about getting Ben Chiarot for what seems like half the season.
He had a half decent playoff run with Montreal because Montreal
Didn't
went
he score a game winner in overtime or something?
Maybe, I don't know. Doesn't matter. He's better than the analytics show.
Well, everyone on Montreal. That's everybody.
But the analytics show he might be one of the worst players in the league, so that's not saying much. I think Jay Fresh's player cards has him listed at a 0%. So even if he's significantly better than that, it still means he could be one of the 25% worst players in the league.
For context for the listeners and the viewers here, Ben Chiarot from the Montreal Canadiens, defenseman, was traded to the Florida Panthers at 50% salary retained, so $1.75 million total going to Florida, in exchange for Ty Smolanic, who was pick number
wasn't he 5th? Or I'm thinking of somebody else.
74th overall in the 3rd round in 2020 by Florida. In addition to Ty, it was a 2022 4th round pick, which has conditions on it. It's from the Rangers, and a 2023 1st round pick that is top 10 protected. In the event that the Panthers keep that protected pick, they will no longer own their 2023 1st round pick. And Montreal would instead get their 2024 1st round pick. So if it's not, yeah, it's a weird.
Something tells me Florida's not going to be in the bottom of the 10 of the league.
Safe bet.
Yeah, so there's different conditions here. So if the Panthers retain their 2022 first, they end up keeping, or they lose their 2023 first, which means Montreal gets a 2024 first. Anyways, it's a first, a 4th, and Ty Smolenic for Ben Chiarot. That's an overpay.
For Ben Chiarot as a rental even.
That's a team who's saying, we think we're close to the cup. We're willing to pay too much to try to push us over the hump. I personally disagree with that even making the difference, and I personally disagree with that gambit. But yeah, that's Florida's thought there.
Nobody gives a shit if you win the cup, but they're really making a big guess.
Florida's in the perfect position right now to push all their chips in. Their team is young, good, ready to contend for the cup. The picks and all that don't mean a whole hell of a lot to them right now. They shouldn't mean nothing, but yeah, they're the team that can trade 1st round picks right now. But not for Ben Chiarot. My God. That's a straight reputation trade.
So Ben Chiarot, based on like the hype around defenseman this trade deadline and hype around him, which is kind of bizarre, got that return. How old is Ben Chiarot?
And then Josh Manson, who in my opinion is a better defenseman, somehow got a 2nd round pick in the mediocre prospect in Drew Helleson. Ben
Chiarot will be 31 soon. Filip Hronek, he shoots right as opposed to Chiarot's left. Filip Hronek's 24. He's making $4.4 million for the next 2 seasons after this one. If Ben Chiarot got that,
either Filip Hronek's not good or the asking price is too high, or we just know nothing.
Or maybe Filip Hronek never had a cup run on Shea Weber's pairing.
Also true. Remember Mark Mathot when he played with Erik Karlsson? Everyone thought it was Bonnie and Clyde.
Whenever I think of him, I think of his fingertip hanging off when Crosby slashed him.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the video he posted on his Twitter? It was like, this is what I tell people when they say, why are you not coming back? And he like does like a squat and his knee sounds like a plastic pop can. If you were to like press it in and try and smush it. It was disgusting.
It's like your body. Your body makes a lot of weird noises.
Yeah, but his sounds like a grinding, like bone on bone.
Yeah, there's no...
But yeah, his finger falling off is also extra disgusting.
Filip Hronek. I'm not advocating to move one of Detroit's only minute-eating defensemen. I am not saying you have to move Filip Hronek at all costs, and I'm not saying he can't be part of this rebuilt team. What I am saying, though, is if this is the price for defensemen right now, you scale Ben Chiarot to Filip Hronek in terms of performance. Models don't love Filip Hronek. And honestly, there have been points over the past 3 seasons where I've been thinking Filip Hronek's ceiling has gotten lower and lower. Like, he's not a top pairing defenseman. That's done and gone, right?
Yes.
That payment for Chiarot is as if he was a top pairing defenseman. You have to think Hronek's better, or at least could by some GMs be perceived to be better. You get that price, you have to pull the trigger. That's just my opinion.
Oh, they definitely should pull the trigger, but I think this Chiarot trade's broken the market because this doesn't exist in the rest of the market, and I don't know how to explain that because Josh Manson is objectively a better defenseman than Ben Chiarot, but he only went for a 2nd round pick and an okay prospect. I don't even understand the Chiarot situation because it's been all season. This guy's going to get a first at the deadline. This guy's going to get a first. And nobody was saying it about anybody else. It was always the Ben Chiarot show, despite Ben Chiarot historically being just okay and this season being bad. And he gets that return. Like, it makes no sense to me. So, yes, obviously, if a team is willing to offer something like that for Filip Hronek, you do it in a heartbeat. Again, the argument here, you need to keep some players.
It's going to be hard to replace those minutes. It's a lot of minutes.
Yeah.
You're essentially then committing to playing Moritz Seider 27 minutes a night at age 22.
Over the last couple of years, Filip Hronek is obviously one of the biggest disappointments on the Red Wings in terms of development because we
thought the world of him.
Yeah, and it just hasn't happened. It's not even that he's gotten worse. It's just that he hasn't progressed like you would have thought a 22-year-old at the time would have. Which is fine. He's still an okay middle pair defenseman. If the Red Wings are ever good, he's probably a really good bottom pairing guy. And that's fine. You need guys like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's value to that. But the value of a first-round pick and a pretty good prospect is higher than that. And that's all it really comes down to is, should Yzerman be shopping Filip Hronek? No. No. He's not picking up the phone and calling other gyms going, hey, Hronek's here. No, but if another team goes, Stevie, we're in a pinch. We need a right-handed defenseman badly. Troy Stecher's not that good. We know you're not trading Seider. Lindstrom's whatever. Can we talk about Hronek? Steve Yzerman should be saying, absolutely, we can talk about him.
Update from Frank Saravalli. Sounds like the Red Wings plan to sit Nick Leddy tonight against Vancouver for protection ahead of a likely trade. Same goes if he's not moved by then for the Seattle game on Saturday. So
yeah, that makes total sense, and it's perfectly understandable.
You want to protect. All I can think of is Mike Green breaking his literal neck in the year where he might have gotten a first or a second round pick in return. So,
and I think there was even calls from the fans to sit him. I remember that. I remember vividly seeing a lot of tweets on Twitter that night saying essentially, do you see?
The literal glass cannon.
Oh my God, that guy he was feast or famine in terms of emotion. Like,
I remember when we saw him score a hat trick.
Oh,
we were in that building.
It was crazy.
What are the odds we've been to 2 home openers that featured hat tricks?
It's the hype. It's the fans feeding it, right? Had we gone this year, that would have been Bertuzzi's 4-goal game, right?
Oh my God.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh my. This
That's
is
the over on home
for
openers.
the Red Wings.
That is crazy.
Yeah. So looks like a lot of what I said about maybe Leddy staying if they don't get the right price.
Yeah, definitely. He's definitely staying, right?
Well, it sounds like there's
enough
teams
interest.
Calling and the price is worth the protection.
Talking about Ben Chiarot, circling back to Nick Leddy, reputation matters.
It does.
And Mark Stahl.
Look, you're right, Brad. Chiarot broke the market like that. Despite how stupid GMs can be, they're going to look at that and go, okay, yeah, Florida paid that, but no one else is going to realistically pay it. Everyone thinks that's an overpay. But what they will do is, okay, I'll pay a little more. Okay, Chiarot's off the board. I'll pay a little more. Okay, someone ponied up for Chychrun or he's too hard to get traded. I'll pay a little more for Nick Leddy. I'll pay a little bit more for.
I don't think it happens, but it's worth asking because of Chiarot breaking the damn market. Is there a reality where Yzerman gets the second round pick back for Leddy?
I know it's not likely, and I know you said earlier that it's probably not going to happen. I think if there's ever a time to do it, it's now. If there's ever a time it's going to happen, it's now. Nick Leddy has played his best hockey all year over the past few games, except for like the start of the season. There has been a massive overpayment in the defensive market, and guys are coming off the board. You can squeeze people. And the Red Wings also have the luxury of retaining salary, which means so much. They can only do it for so many guys. Like, they can't do it for all of these trades, but they would do it to make it worth it for a team.
But I feel like there's 100 Nick Leddys on the market right now.
How many people have Nick Leddy's name recognition, though?
No, and that's what I mean. The reputation thing is the only thing carrying him right now. And that is the advantage Steve Yzerman has. But I feel like as much as we say that, at least half the GMs in the league are smart enough to look past reputation, which then shrinks the market even further.
Yeah, but how many GMs in the league are even active in the trade market at a time, right? Half?
Yeah, that's fair.
You only need one GM to pull the trigger. Everybody who's traded with Peter Chiarot will tell you that.
Do you think GMs? I don't even know if I believe what I'm about to say.
Welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast.
Yeah, I don't think I needed to preface that actually. Let's say Yzerman's getting some interest in Nick Leddy. Do you think he sits him out for that game as like a 40 chess play and gets that tweeted out? Just say, and then other teams that are thinking,
oh yeah,
100%. The Nick Leddy market's actually hot. I'll pick up the phone now.
I don't think that's insane. You almost have to do that, right? If you're trying to drive up a price, absolutely.
if he is,
I'm not saying is that
Holy
is that
shit,
crazy?
Evan, should you be a GM?
But would GMs actually 40 chess a play? Like, would they galaxy brain like that?
I would go so far as to say I will bet all of my very few dollars that it happens every year.
Okay. But if he doesn't get moved, then it looks like a boneheaded play.
No, but then
But it doesn't matter.
Then you
right?
say I didn't get the price, and ultimately we felt he was too important to the future of this team. We have a lot of young guys.
Yeah, I guess you can talk yourself out of that.
Yeah, or Stevie can just say I don't give a shit.
Yeah,
I don't care what you think. You'll be back next year.
you'd have to ask them.
Yeah.
Tried some, didn't work. We'll see tomorrow.
Yeah.
No, but it's realistically probably both, because the timing of it is hilarious. Because if this is 4D chess, it's brilliant, because they had every option to just say, yeah, we're not bringing him on this West Coast road trip. But no, they brought him, played him in Edmonton. They're like, oh, between that Edmonton and the Vancouver game, that's when the market really heated up.
Yeah.
Got to sit him now, even though he's going to be next to all of us on the plane, and he's going to be on the road trip, and it's going to be kind of awkward.
It's also worth noting, players understand the reality of this. Nick Leddy they probably had this discussion when they traded for him. Hey, you might get flipped again.
It's not like you just go to the rink and you never see the GM and you never talk to the guy who signs your paychecks.
No, and like what we said about Stecher earlier from the Vancouver play-by-play guy. Stecher had a conversation with Yzerman about what is likely to happen.
They probably have these conversations with all the players every week.
Yeah. Especially the ones they don't like.
Yeah, probably.
No, so that's actually interesting about Leddy. And that's like, Evan, I can't get over how good of a point that is. I've never thought about that, but it makes so much sense.
Yeah, I guess if a job opening comes up, like a GM vacancy, I'll think about it.
You willing to take that pay downgrade?
You know what? If I'm mixing business and passion, I can handle that.
Less time to golf, though. No.
Well, I'll just
he'd be in the Red Wings organization.
Yeah.
More time for golf.
I don't know if I'd make a good time first GM, because I'd probably just act on emotion all the time. So I'd be out on the golf course frequently.
Oh, so you'd be a GM in Edmonton then?
Shank one on the 8th hole. Call someone up. Trade Ernie now.
Goddamn Draisaitl!
Brad and I pitching Evan every episode of the Winged Wheel podcast to hire us.
Yeah, that would be painful.
Evan screening our calls. Oh, I'd have
a phone. I'd have a phone guy. I wouldn't even carry my phone around. I just have a phone guy.
You absolutely would too.
Half surprised you don't already have one.
Ryan.
He's right. Shit. I don't even get paid.
Yeah.
So that's I like that broke while we were talking. So that's more on Leddy. We've kind of identified the Hronek take, which is the very hot take of if you get a price too good that you can't pass up.
That's literally any player on any team.
That's everyone save for Raymond and Seider on Detroit and probably Larkin. Like, that's the truth.
Yeah, your best players, you'll never get the best possible return. No.
Anything else on Detroit before we take a look at the rest of the league quickly?
Nope.
Just a heads up before we get into that. Next episode isn't going to be our usual Sunday. It is going to be a Monday post-trade deadline episode. So barring something absolutely insane happening, the next time you'll hear from us will be Monday post-trade deadline. So it won't be the usual Sunday episode, but we will have something for you Monday, and that'll probably be another big episode, so stay tuned for that.
Well, here's more breaking news.
Oh, okay.
Carter Mazur, NCHC Rookie of the Year.
Good for Carter Mazur, man. He has been, from the moment we were critical of how high he got picked, he has just been lights out.
What league was that?
NCAA. It's just a division in the NCAA.
Yeah.
So hypothetically, it's like if it was the NHL equivalent, the Western Conference.
I was like the
player.
North Carolina Hockey Conference.
You nailed it. He plays for Denver.
Non-contact hockey.
Yeah, it's
something.
Denver flies really far east every time. Okay, the rest of the NHL. Here are the trades that have happened. So we'll start March 14th. Brad mentioned this earlier. The Avs got Josh Manson at 50% salary retained, so just a touch over $2 million their way in exchange for their 2023 second round pick and Drew Hellison.
Really like that trade for the Avs.
Smart.
Especially after seeing what Chiarot went for a couple days later. Manson's going to be a very good middle pair right shot defenseman who will bring a physical element while not being a dumpster fire in other aspects of the game. And he cost a second round pick, which for Colorado is going to be like pick 60. So whatever. And Hellison's a decent prospect, but his best case scenario is maybe Josh Manson. So,
and then the Avs went and traded Tyson Jost, $2 million salary in exchange for Nico Sturm, who's making, I think, league minimum. Yeah, league minimum.
Yeah, they saved, I think, 1.3 or 1.4 million in that trade.
Just under 1.3.
There you go.
So they're clearing room. Their current space at the deadline is just under $3 million.
It's not enough for Claude Giroux yet.
You retain some salary. You move some guys the other way. The Avs are gearing up here. You know, they see what Florida's doing on the
It's an arms race, baby.
It is. And this is a team that's close, right? You think how long Tampa Bay was close. Colorado's there right now.
Colorado hasn't even got to the third round yet.
I don't think Colorado has the longevity in the way that their team is built that maybe Tampa Bay does and did.
Well, McKinnon already said he's going to take another discount.
Yeah, a discount for him could still be like 12 million. So he's making 6 and change right now.
They have McKinnon for about $6 million fewer than they should be paying him, but that's whatever. The Rangers acquired Frankie Vetrano for about $2.5 million salary in exchange for the Rangers 2022 fourth round pick, which has a condition on it, which factored into the Chiarot trade.
Can we come up with a rule on this podcast, just especially for the next episode?
Love rules.
If it's a draft pick and it's third round or later and there's conditions on it, we don't even mention it because who cares?
The condition is, no, I'm kidding. And then the Flames acquired former Detroit Red Wings prospect Calle Jarnkrok at 50% salary retained, so $1 million in exchange for a 2022 second of Florida's, a 2023 third, which was Calgary's, and a 2024 seventh, which was Calgary's.
I like that for Calgary.
Me too.
I don't mind that for Seattle either.
No, that's a lot of picks because they finally acquired some. Took a while, but they're finally starting to acquire some. But no, yeah, Jarnkrok's a very, very, very good third line center, and he's going to be an excellent depth player. And man, you can't tell me that Calle Jarnkrok is not going to be the absolute perfect fit in a Daryl Sutter system.
Oh, loves him. Absolutely. The kind of game he plays.
Yeah. That is the perfect fit.
Remember how much losing Calle Jarnkrok hurt and how little that would matter now?
Yeah, honestly.
Not that he's like a nobody. It's just that no one could... No one player could save these Red Wings right now. So that's that. Then you have the big names still on the board, right? You have Jacob Chychrun. They're wondering what that injury is. You have players like Lawson Krause from Arizona as well.
You can just say the Coyotes.
Yep.
Phil Kessel.
Yeah. Phil Kessel's name has come up quite a bit.
The Coyotes.
That guy, I think he's like a point per game player in his last 80 playoff games.
Oh, first ever power outage on the podcast since we've been here.
Literally speaking, we've had a few metaphorical ones.
Yeah,
we survived.
A lot of meltdowns. Immediately after the power went out, Evan started pointing out things that were obvious. The lights all went off. The power very obviously turned off in the house, and Evan looks at his phone and goes, "Oh, your Wi-Fi's out."
Just making sure you know.
He goes, "Camera's plugged in, like we have a AC adapter on it." He goes, "Wonder if the video saved on the camera."
I always say it to
gonna murder you. And we're in the dark, so no one will see. Anyhow, Phil Kessel, I mean, I talked about how he scores goals real well. He has 6 goals in 60 games this year, so maybe I shouldn't talk so much, but I think he could be a benefit to a team as well. There's goalies on the market. Korpisalo's been on the market forever. Georgiev is obviously on the market. DeBrusk has been on the market for a long time. He's not a goalie, but I'm just naming guys who've been known to be available for a while. Rickard Rakell, I mentioned earlier from the Ducks. I think he could be someone who's attractive, right? There's quite a bit out there. You think a guy like Vitaly Kravtsov, I've seen a lot of people mock trades to Detroit actually for Kravtsov, looking for a new situation. What happens with him in the Rangers? Anyone strike your fancy?
For the Red Wings?
Just in general.
Everybody's draft pick.
Well, let's look at some of the big names. Claude Giroux, where does he go?
The rumors lately are that he's going to be staying east.
So Colorado's not east.
But they're still going to be involved. Florida seems to make a lot of sense for Giroux. They seem to be making a push. I think the Rangers have sniffed around from what I've read, but whether or not they actually get him or he'd be willing to go to the Rangers remains to be seen. But yeah, I think Minnesota's been involved. Man, can you imagine Florida's offense and then just adding Claude Giroux?
God.
And he doesn't need to be the guy.
That would actually be... Florida's looking serious. Like they're looking... The Chiarot overpay aside, like they are looking serious as a team.
Yeah, like Chiarot's not a bad hockey player. He's not a great hockey player. He's not a bad hockey player. I'm sure he's an upgrade on whoever he's replacing there. He's just nowhere near worth what they paid.
What about Giordano?
Apparently the Leafs are going after Giordano.
Of course they are.
That would make a lot of sense for them, especially after the news broke that Muzzin might be out for the season.
That is we joked about Mark Stahl. Giordano's he's a very capable defenseman, a lot of leadership abilities, and has the reputation and experience. He's a guy who can make a difference for your team, both on the ice and in the locker room.
And God knows what's going on with Anaheim because Hampus Lindholm has not signed an extension yet.
Yeah, what is going to happen there?
They've already traded Manson. Are they willing to move both?
That's you're committing a lot then to a hard rebuild if they haven't already. There's
every team seems to have the exact same players that the Red Wings have, just in a different costume.
And to varying talent levels.
So there's obviously a world of players available, sellers right now in the market. We're not going to get into who might be sold from every team. We've all seen the big trade boards. And in terms of who might be interested in the Red Wings guys, look for the contenders. For the Vlad Namestnikovs and for the not big name players, look for the contenders because they'll often not try to add in the margins for cheaper. And honestly, if you're going to go for the hot take that Hronek gets moved or Bertuzzi even, you can look further down the board. That's when you can look at the Islanders and maybe not the cup contenders this year. But okay, speaking of the Red Wings, before we started recording, I mentioned to people that we were going to be recording, and why don't they give me their best Red Wings trade proposal?
Oh, yes. My favorite part. This is where I get to just be an absolute asshole. Let's go.
Because nothing happens in the NHL, so the trade is no every time.
Yep.
Bertuzzi to the Islanders for Atu Ratu, Beauvillier, and a 2023 first.
Islanders say no.
I think that's too much from the Islanders. I'd be thrilled, but I think that's too much from the Islanders.
I think you're one piece too much there. I think you can get away with two of those three as the focus and then have another filler. Like I said, two premium pieces and a third okay piece. The Islanders would be giving up their best prospect, one of their best players, and a first round pick, which could be a top 10 pick where they're at right now. Too much. I mean, if they're willing to, in a heartbeat, Yzerman should say yes, but it's a bit rich.
There's quite a few of Leddy to Edmonton for a second or things like that. So another Islanders one. Bertuzzi to the Islanders, and the Wings get Ratu, a 2022 first and a 2023 first, but the 2023 is lottery protected. I think the same thing. I think that's too much.
Three premium pieces, not likely.
Detroit sends Filip Hronek at half salary retained.
He's got 2 years left after this one?
Yeah, I think so. That's what I said. And then the Red Wings get in return Chris Russell from Edmonton, Chris Russell, Kyler Yamamoto, and Dmitry Samorukov.
So Russell would be a cap dump, and then you would be getting Yamamoto and Samorukov.
Samorukov?
Yeah. Ooh, that's a good one, because that's making me think.
What does
Samorukov is a legitimate good prospect, but I don't think he'll ever be as good as Hronek is.
Chris Russell only makes 1.25.
He's just a cap, and I'm assuming he's a pending UFA. Yeah. So but Yamamoto is
pending RFA,
and he's a right shot forward who brings offense. I think I'd do it. And I think it's close enough that I think Edmonton would also consider it. But here's the only catch. Edmonton, as much as they have a need for a right D, they also have a need for depth scoring, and I don't think they could afford to give up Yamamoto.
Bertuzzi, and there's a lot of Bertuzzi ones, so we're going to keep going through these. Bertuzzi for Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh's 2022 first and fourth, Kasperi Kapanen and Philip Hollander.
Detroit says no.
I think, you can squeeze more from someone else.
Kapanen's having a terrible year and historically hasn't shown to be much more than like a third, maybe fringe second line player. Hollander, might be something there, but it's still a bit of a long shot. So the only great piece you're getting there is the 2022 first, which it's Pittsburgh is going to be a late first anyway. I can get away with trading Bertuzzi for just a first round pick or as only one premium piece if it's the Islanders, if it's Columbus, if it's a basement, not a basement, but like it's going to be the top half of the first round.
Nick Leddy and Vlad Namestnikov 50% retained for Jake DeBrusk.
Boston says no.
Boston says no to that one.
In a heartbeat.
This is a sign-in trade. So assuming Kopp extends, Stahl in a second to Winnipeg for Kopp.
Winnipeg says no.
I also think if Kopp is going to sign with Detroit, you just wait a few months.
Yeah. I think Winnipeg thinks they can get more for Kopp, and they might not be wrong.
Zadina, Cotton, and a third for Fiala.
Minnesota says no in a heartbeat.
They have cap issues.
Minnesota says no. Fiala's a point per game player.
Yeah, I know. I'm just advocating. Tyler Bertuzzi, Joe Veleno for Alex Newhook, Ryan Murray, Colorado's first and Colorado's third. Colorado says no to that, right?
Bertuzzi, Veleno for a late first, Newhook, and a couple meaningless picks.
2023 first, 2022 third, Murray and Newhook.
Okay, so Murray and the third are basically filler. So Veleno and Bertuzzi for Newhook and a first. I say no.
If you're the Red Wings.
Yeah, if I'm the Red Wings, I say no.
It did get interesting, though. Including Veleno is an interesting wrinkle.
So, here's the thing. People think that, Veleno hasn't panned out quite as good as we've hoped, which, one, there's still time, but let's just, for hypothetical sake. If all Joe Veleno is a good third-line center, that's a fantastic late first-round pick, which was 30th overall when they got him, which is around where Colorado's pick will be. So that's almost an even swap. So, yeah, I wouldn't.
Nick Leddy half retained, a 2022 fourth, which is Colorado's, to the Rangers for a 2022 second, and Vitaly Kravtsov.
Rangers say no to that.
Rangers say no to that, I think.
They would say no to that for just the second, probably.
Bertuzzi and Hronek to the Isles for Dobson, Rat2, and a first.
Islanders say no.
Do they?
Oh, sorry. Bertuzzi, Hronek for
Dobson, Rat2, and a first. I think.
Oh, yeah, sorry. No, yeah.
I think
not bad, actually.
I think the Isles still say.
Sorry, I gotta go piece by piece because you're trading then Bertuzzi for a first and Dobson, and then you're trading Hronek for Rat2, essentially.
If you want to look at it that way, yeah.
Yeah, that's not bad.
It gets mucky.
That's not bad. When I'm conflicted, that's how you know you're in the range.
I don't think the Islanders will be fond of getting rid of Dobson and Rat2 and a first. I think that's quite a few.
You could also make the argument that Dobson's already better than Hronek, but hopefully the rest of the Islanders don't view it that way.
Detroit ships Bertuzzi, Albert Johansson, and a third, and the LA Kings send Gabe Vilardi, Alex Turcotte, and a first.
I think the Wings say no.
Think so?
Vilardi and Turcotte have not panned out to be what their draft position said they would or implied they would. Johansson has far exceeded his draft position. And then obviously Bertuzzi's Bertuzzi. The first it'd be a mid first, which is good. I still think Detroit says no, though.
Bertuzzi to Minnesota for Rossi, next year's first, and a 2023 second. Minnesota couldn't afford that. They have cap troubles.
And
already.
Minnesota would say no anyway. Rossi isn't the typical prospect where you would throw in there. That's like a legit top 10 pick who is panning out like a top 10 pick.
Detroit sends Tyler Bertuzzi. Boston sends Trent Frederick, Fabian Lysell, and a 2023 second.
I think Detroit says no. But it's not crazy.
There's a lot of really good ones in here.
Yeah, there's more than that made me think than I thought there would be. Kudos.
Okay, one more.
Kudos.
Actually, two more. Zadina for Kravtsov, straight up 1-for-1 swap.
Detroit says no in a heartbeat.
Bertuzzi for Girard in a second.
Colorado says no.
Do they?
Yeah. Girard's younger, more premium position, and very cost controlled at a very good price.
Bertuzzi's a playoff player, man. Doesn't that count for something?
No, because he's never played in the playoffs.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. He plays a style of game that you know will be good in the playoffs.
I still think Colorado
if he can
no.
play in the games. All right. We could do this for literal hours. So why don't we wrap this up? Appreciate the trade proposals. Like we said, don't get too embedded in the actual, literal third, fourth, whatever round values or picks. Those are values. So find equivalent values there when we talked about those. And here's to hoping Steve Yzerman makes this episode obsolete almost instantly.
Yeah.
Because that's more fun. We're going to jump into overtime here. We're going to take some questions from Patreon. Our Patreon supporters are the reason we're able to do things like do a trade deadline preview and recap episode with bonus content. After this, we're going to be doing a full overtime, Patreon exclusive overtime for patrons to listen to. But we are going to take a few questions here. Taylor F says, hey guys, do you think that due to how many teams there are that could be cup contenders, the asking price at the deadline for players could increase? Montreal fleeced Florida because a lot of good teams were in on Chiarot, and I feel like a lot more teams this year are actually cup competitive compared to previous years.
The salary cap limitations kind of counterbalance that.
Yeah, a little bit what we were talking about earlier. There's probably teams that want to be in that are just like, it doesn't make sense for us to stretch right now.
Yeah, they just can't unless they get hyper creative with the trades in terms of contracts going in and out, which not every seller will be super keen on.
Ryan Hubbard asks, hey guys, my question is, who would be your 5 players that are off the table? Mine would be Larkin, Raymond, Seider, Vrana, and Ned. Curious what you would think.
Yeah, I think that's my list too.
If you had to pick 5.
Yeah.
I think you can say 3 reasonably, and anything beyond that is more emotion than anything. And I think that's obviously Raymond, Seider, and Larkin.
Yeah.
I love Ned, and I don't think he should be traded, but there's a right price for everyone.
Yep.
Join the Dark Sider says, is Namestnikov worth the return he'd get? He's such a great Red Wing, and it seems like it's not worth it to me. It's what we were talking about before, right? You have to remove the emotion from situations like this. Not to say it's not right to be upset. You can be upset. But you just have to understand why these things happen.
Now, this obviously won't be public and will never be public, but for Yzerman, for all the guys he's thinking about trading or keeping that he's on the fence, like he's holding Nick Leddy out as a trade asset tonight, so I think we can assume he doesn't care about Nick Leddy at the end of the year. He's just a trade asset. But for a guy like Namestnikov, you better have a half decent idea of what his contract demands are for next year. Because if Namestnikov says, yeah, I want $4 million a year, and Yzerman goes, well, we're very obviously not paying you that, then you trade him for anything that can be considered a half decent return, because you're obviously not going to keep him. But if Namestnikov goes, yeah, I'll come back for on a 2-year, $5 million deal. Okay, now you have something to think about. Is a 4th round pick more valuable than 2 pretty affordable years of Vlad Namestnikov?
Derek Enstam says, what would it say if Stevie does very little at the trade deadline? Would that be a good or a bad sign?
I alluded to it earlier, and I'll put it more bluntly now. Most of the players the Red Wings have available for trade as rentals aren't very good. So there is a reality where other teams just don't want them.
Leah Hextall's favorite hockey player says, hey guys, longtime listener, first time caller, and new supporter. Glad to be here to support the fantastic stuff you guys do. Thank you so much for the support. It genuinely means the world to us. First question, assuming Blashill is hypothetically fired in the offseason or before, who do you expect to become the next head coach? Tanguay, Gronberg, or someone else? And second question, what position did Ryan play? Oh, actually, played on the right side. On defense. Who would we expect to be the next head coach?
way too early to tell because there's going to be coaches fired, other coaches scooped up. The name that hasn't been mentioned yet that we've heard around Detroit circles before, Lane Lambert. I don't have any good guesses beyond that.
I think if you're talking midseason, you're probably going to see one of the assistants step in as an interim, but
not that we've heard his name connected to Detroit. Well, we haven't, but Jim Montgomery's since he's recovered, had a successful rehab. His name's starting to get floated around as a potential head coach again, and he wasn't a bad head coach before. He just had his demons.
Yeah. Lars, the prophet of the towering behemoth, says, hello, Sweetophiles. Why is there so much talk about Jágr still playing hockey at 50 as if it was a feat? I mean, there's a second-tier Czech league for crying out loud. That's nothing. Michael Bunting is still in the NHL. Anyhow, Theodor Niederbach is rumored to be leaving Frölunda for Rögle in the offseason. I find that quite interesting. Any thoughts on if that happens? If it means more ice time?
Yeah, that's the only thing I have. That's the only opinion I could have because I don't know enough about the inner workings of either organization to get into that. If he gets 5 more minutes a game going to Rögle, then great.
And we have time for one more question here from Ben Barron. Says, howdy dubs. Are there any out of the box pieces that you could see being dealt from this team / maybe a prospect that gets thrown in to increase the value on a sale?
Yes, any of them.
Out of the box, truly. I'd go to the little bit crazy Hronek take. Prospects, someone like Albert Johansson, maybe.
That's your big game hunting if you're doing that.
Steve Yzerman.
Yeah. But of all the guys who are rumored to be available, I don't even know who the Red Wings would go after where that would be worth including. Do the Red Wings come in as a stealth team on Chychrun? Yeah, I don't know. All
right, folks. The more we say, the more likely it is to be completely obsolete. So we're going to wrap up this episode. Again, we're going to be back with you on Monday night. So not our usual Sunday episode. We're going to let the trade deadline play itself out unless something absolutely nuclear happens, at which case we'll have to drag Evan by his ears in his jammies to the studio. But you can expect to hear us back Monday night. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I'd like to thank our sponsors of this episode, the FanDuel Sportsbook, and our name level supporters on Patreon, Arjun Shankar, Yves Bartels, on behalf of the Sarah Grand Foundation, Kyle Karagitz, Nick Perks, Brett Bailey, Terry Driver for the number 69, crying Ryan Hanna's Banana Slamma Jamathon, Matthew M. Rice, Arjun Shankar, Taylor Tagel, B. Diz, Boos Lobsinger, Carl Brutana Nanaluski, Chimmy, Citizen High Five, CJ Sully, Craig Kibble, Daniel Garcia, Derek Enstam, DJ Denton, Give Blood, Fight Probert, Greach, Hana Lee, Honeysuckle Scented Farts, Hassam Al-Qassem, Jay Gollum, Jacob Turner, Justin and the Angry Mob, Kalen Wood, King Tone, Kyle Hashman, Marcus, Matt McKay, R.A., Ryan Hubbard, Scott Martin, Stay Fresh Cheesebags, Zach Spring, Andrew Bohan, Sam Bankson, Adam, I wish I could finish like Ernie, Antonio Gracias, Babe Landeskog, Ben Barron, Connor Leighton, Dave W., Eric Sinkowski, Evans Bingo Card. Hello, I'm Aaron, and I like to smoke and yell at the Red Wings on the television. James Laporte, Jeremiah Dobo, Jeremy Brocker, John Evans, Josh Yelton, Kevin McCracken, Quaz, Logan Stull, Matt Keeler, Matt S., Max $1 million, Papa Woody, new name level sponsor, welcome. Reed, Revi DeLuca, Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, Terry Actual, Trevor Pevivar, Zach Handyside, and Zach McCann, a driving range superstar. Thank you all so much. Enjoy the trade deadline and let the Yzer plan roll on.
Thanks for tuning in to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Be sure to check out wingedwheelpodcast.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You'll also find links to other ways to support the show, such as Patreon, official podcast apparel, and more. And don't forget to follow the show on Twitter at Winged Wheel Pod. And of course, the hosts at Brad Crisco, at Ryan Hanna WWP, and at Hockey Town Evan.